Beloved, over the past period, one is concerned about the increased levels of polarization regarding approaches to the treatment of COVID-19, especially within the church. This is marked by stridency, irrationality, arrogance, and confusion on the part of some who believe that their approach is the right one, whether it be for scientific, political, or religious reasons. When pondering upon this, some scriptures come to mind. James 1:19. Let every person be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. Matthew 5:9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. And Matthew 7:12. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We are called upon to be peacemakers, and the question we need to answer is, what does it mean to be a peacemaker in this polarized world? In this regard, I do not wish to engage in the merits of the science of this matter, although I'm rather amused at the number of armchair virologists and epidemiologists produced by the pandemic, or the fact that we tend to operate in echo chambers that reinforce whatever position we adopt on the matter, whether it proceeds from knowledge or ignorance. But I rather wish to shed some light on the biomedical ethical framework and the normative ethical systems which should guide us in making morally right decisions and inform our thinking on the matter. Broadly, themes in ethical theory flow from the Greek tradition of the highest good to the Judeo-Christian definitions of moral conduct, for example, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, to John Stuart Mill's utilitarianism or consequentialist ethics and the deontological ethics of Immanuel Kant. Philosophically, it is the last two of these which inform our legal approach. Mill's idea is that the value of an action is based on the effects that it generates or the value of its consequences, as opposed to Kant's approach, which posits that the rightness of an action is determined by the moral value of the action itself. For example, the breaking of a promise or the act of stealing. The aforementioned theories are underpinned by the following principles, which provide a simple and culturally neutral approach to ethical issues in clinical practice. The first principle is the principle of autonomy, which is also known as self-rule, and it implies the capacity of an individual to think, decide, or act with freedom and independence. Therefore, in order to respect autonomy, doctors must permit patients to come to their own conclusions, whether or not clinicians agree with the patient's decision. Remember also that you have the autonomy to decide whether to put on a seatbelt when getting into a car. However, should you base your decision not to wear a seatbelt on credible studies which have shown that seatbelts in certain circumstances can cause death, your decision will still be considered irrational, absurd, and illegal, since it will break the law, which is based on the legal principle of contra bonos mores, meaning it is against the public interest. The second principle is the principle of beneficence, which means that clinicians are called upon to actively do what is best for the patient, based on the objective assessment of a doctor. In this regard, doctors should guard against medical paternalism or a decision that may be in conflict with the patient's own views and may therefore clash with the patient's autonomy. The third principle is that the principle of non-maleficence, which enjoins medical staff not to do harm to patients. The clinician's aim is to do what is best for the patient. Therefore, treatment decisions are typically weighed up with risk versus benefit, or beneficence versus non-maleficence in mind. And the fourth principle is the principle of justice, which is the principle that all patients should receive the best and equal possible treatments and is a key factor in resource and service allocation. Weighing up these core principles is a fine balancing act, considering the patient's right to decide on treatment options, the clinician's obligation to do what is best for the patient, and not to harm the patient, coupled with the equal access to treatment. Therefore, when we engage on this matter, whether it be on social media platforms, at church, or at home, always remember that we are enjoined to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. May we be mindful of this at all times, even as we seek to justify our own position in the debate. Let us not give way to conspiracies which are informed by paranoia, but rather let us base our approach on the facts, always bearing in mind that it is our duty above all to love one another, even as Christ loves us. I encourage you to stay blessed and Shabbat Shalom.